Howdy y'all, I'm AstroStars 2025 and I hope that you're having a great day so far. So, today I figured I might as well do something a little bit different. There's some space news to go over and some recent developments for SpaceX's Starship that are rather interesting. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. So typically I like to go over astronomy first when I give these presentations at Astronomy Club, because that's basically what the whole universe is about. So right now astronomers are having lots of trouble from Starlink satellites that are leaving light trails on pictures. So they're trying to take pictures from observatories of stars, and Starlink's really getting in the way because they're very reflective. They're leaving trails, which obviously is a major problem because then they can't see clearly for the nebulas and other celestial bodies. There was a radio jet found from a quasar. I'll have the link posted in the description down below if you want to read that, but it's the first of its kind. If I remember correctly, a few years back, there was a radio signal detected from a quasar, which was originally thought to be a alien signal, unfortunately. Still haven't found life yet, but we're working towards that. There's an increased chance that a near-Earth object will be hitting Earth in 2032. Again, I'll post the link in the description down below. You can judge whether or not that's realistic. It may have come from a non-reliable source, as most of these do. Media tends to blow things out of proportion. Let's see here. Human spaceflight and rocketry. The main reason I posted this today is because there's some footage of the SpaceX Starship explosion that has surfaced on Twitter. It's a video of Starship basically exploding. So what happened was Starship launched, and because it was Starship version 2, which hadn't been fully tested before, and don't worry, there were no people on it, SpaceX likes to do what's called the all-up concept, where they stack the whole rocket and do a test during flight rather than on like a test stand. They find it's better for trial and error testing rather than just testing stuff on the test stand like NASA does. Both methods work. No one is better than the other. But the footage shows Starship going off course and exploding. What happened was there was a methane leak during the flight, and unfortunately, while the booster was caught by the tower and landed back safe on Earth, Starship started having that methane leak and the engine bay caught on fire, and they started losing engines as a result, and then they lost attitude control because the three inner engines that can wiggle to adjust the rocket's course, they lost two of those, and then they had one left, and the two of the outboard engines, which are the vacuum engines specifically designed for thrust in space, two of those went off, and because the inboard engine, the one that can gimbal and rotate, and the vacuum engine right next to it, that resulted in basically a kind of inconsistent thrust that caused the vehicle to tip, and when it went off course, the computer activated what's known as a flight termination system, which activated a set of charges on the inside of the fuel tanks to blow the rocket up. The flight termination system was developed for early American rockets to prevent them from going off course and impacting the ground, causing a massive explosion. The Russians don't use that, as far as I'm aware. There's a few videos that you can go watch of their rockets colliding into the ground. Anyways, Starship, a few weeks back, it exploded, and unfortunately it fell back to Earth into the Atlantic. So I've read some articles that apparently an island had to deal with remains. Typically they pick trajectories that don't have to deal with that, so I guess we'll have more information on that later. Moving into human spaceflight, we have the Artemis 2 rocket, which is stacking currently. It'll take the first crew around the moon and back for the first time since 1971, when Apollo 17 left the moon. Since then, political problems have prevented us from going back to the moon, unfortunately, but we're finally making progress now. Let's see here. Elon Musk has vowed to bring back these quote-unquote stranded astronauts from the failed Boeing Starliner mission. The Boeing astronauts launched last year, and what was supposed to be an 8-day mission ended up becoming a lot longer. I think they've been up there for months now. Contrary to popular belief, these astronauts are not stranded. The media is just blowing it out of proportion. They've always had the capability to return home because NASA reserved 2 extra seats on the cargo pallet on the Crew 8 Dragon that SpaceX launched earlier. They like to have 2 spacecraft up at one time during crew rotations, and then they bring the other one home about a week later. So they brought up a Dragon with 2 extra, extra regular seats, the Crew 9 Dragon for Sonny and Butch, the 2 astronauts who are stranded, and they can return home at any time. So they are currently planning on bringing them back home a little earlier because the Crew 10 Dragon that's under construction is having battery problems, so they won't be able to launch that in time. So they're rotating the spacecraft around and delaying a private mission to the space station so the Crew 10 mission can arrive first, maintaining a presence for the Americans on the station, except for the ones that launch on the Soyuz with the Russians. Let's see here. I've got some Artemis 2 pictures in the lower right, as you can see, that are stacking. On the right side, you have the solid rocket motor, one of the fuel sections. They come in different parts that they stack together. And then on the left image, you can see the mobile launch platform in the vehicle assembly building. And you can see a little crane, the yellow part on the upper part of the image. And if you look closely from that crane, you can see the solid rocket motor being stacked right there between the platforms. So, yeah. We're moving on to science fiction now. Science fiction is still very prominent today. And we're going to start with the obvious, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, since Star Trek has been one of the defining shows, setting the stage for everything else almost, since it released in 1966. So, Star Trek Strange New Worlds. They posted 2 teasers a while ago for Season 3, which they're going to be releasing later this year, and they've begun filming Season 4 and pre-production for it. Season 5 may be renewed rather soon. Stranger Things. I've seen the first 3 seasons, not the 4th, but I know what happens. Stranger Things Season 5 will release later this year, although there was a pretty big delay because of the Hollywood strikes. And then, of course, there's a new Star Wars movie coming out. I watched Star Wars for the action, and it's really good. Obviously, the action's a lot better than Star Trek, because Star Trek, they're supposed to be for exploration, not combat. But so there's a new movie that's going to be coming out that's starring Daisy Ridley. Ray. I probably spelled her name wrong. It's planned and takes place after Episode 9. I am not a fan of the sequels, so we'll have to see how this turns out. I probably won't watch it. On happier news, though, Spaceballs 2, the script has been mostly completed, and a lot of people have said, or who have been able to read it, said that it's very good. The original director is not directing this movie. I can't remember his name, unfortunately. But he's said he really likes the script as well, and he's helping out with development of the film. Spaceballs 2 will begin production soon. We're not entirely sure what the name of Spaceballs 2 will be. It was teased in the first one that if a potential sequel would be Spaceballs 2: The Search for More Money, but there've been some fan theories going around that Spaceballs 2 might actually be called The Search for Spaceballs 2: The Search for More Money, although that title is kind of long. So let's see here. And then moving on to the inspiration from Star Trek, the Orville. This show has 3 seasons. Unfortunately, Seth MacFarlane hasn't gotten the approval yet for season 4, and it might be a little too late. But one of the actors and a couple other unreliable sources have said that pre-production will be starting sometime Q1 this year, so I'm afraid I don't think it'll happen. Let's see here. We're moving into planetary geology now. So there's been a fair chunk of activity on Mars. The Perseverance rover has found a rock that may be showing signs of microbial life from billions of years ago. However, I think this is unlikely because we haven't found any evidence of microbial life so far. There's plenty of evidence of water on Mars, which has almost basically been proven. There's the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. There's an article from NASA that said the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter confirmed that there's water flowing on today's Mars under certain conditions. There's also a special thing in some areas called a recurring slope lineae, which is kind of underground water or ice. I used to remember more about that, but I'd have to look it up again. And there's an article here that I'll post in the description down below. Mars's Curiosity rover is continuing to climb Mount Sharp as usual. Let's see. And then we have the physics section here. New research is actually showing that dark matter, which I believe makes up the majority of the universe, it's invisible, of course, which is why it's called dark matter and we can't see it. I think matter makes up roughly about 1 to 5% of the universe itself, while dark matter makes up the rest. And of course, you have a little bit of dark energy driving the expansion of the universe thrown in there. But the research shows that dark matter may have been in bigger numbers since the start of the universe. So that would be rather interesting if it was kind of going away, because matter can't be created or destroyed. I'm wondering if dark energy is increasing by some way. I mean, I'm not a physicist, but I'm just wondering if, because the expansion of the universe is speeding up, I wonder if dark energy has something to do with the dark matter decrease, because that may explain the speed up. But anyways, that's it for this news wrap up. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope y'all have a great day. I'm AstroStars 2025, and take care. Peace.